Gang, times are tough for pretty much everyone right now. And I think that there's this real pressure that's slowly putting pressure on our mental health, where it kind of feels like if we just do that little bit more, we are able to tip the scales in our favor, or at least not so much against us. And we've all been feeling that for a few years now, and this is really starting to burn us all out. And I think that street photography is a fantastic thing that we can do for our mental health. And so I want to explain the amazing upsides of street photography, and how I think it hits slightly different compared to other forms of photography, as well as the potential downsides and the things that can have a negative impact, and how we can mitigate against those. So we can go and have the best time shooting street photography, and hopefully just feeling generally better about our own lives. To kick things off, what is modern day life like? I would argue that we spend it almost entirely in our own heads. And so what I mean by that is we're constantly thinking about our to-do list. Where we've got to be later, what we've got to get done now before we can do this, what's on our shopping list, what does our boss want us to do on Monday when we get back into work. All of these different things are so brain, mind, internal monologue orientated. And they all come from a part of your brain known as the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for memory recall, so remembering everything to do, impulse inhibition, so that's stopping you from scrolling your phone, which is kind of hard right now, and then attention regulation, so keeping us on track, focused on the things that we need to get done. We're living in just this part of our brain. We're trying to almost maximize our lives, which I think street photography is the antithesis of. There are no timings. There is nothing to squeeze in. When I walk outside my front door, I can start shooting photos. And when I'm tired and my feet start hurting, I can just go home. If I want to go for a coffee, I can just go get a coffee. And the goal of going out and shooting street photography is just to have fun with our cameras, to follow our intuition, and to almost like listen to a different part of our brain. And let's be real here. It's so difficult to do when we don't have our camera in our hands. And that may just be because we're street photographers. And yes, you can do it meditating, but I'm not going to be spending 6 hours on a Saturday morning meditating, whereas I will be walking around with my camera in my hand. And then another more like practical way. You can't be thinking about tomorrow's to-do list when you've got some kid that's just been putting a crisp packet on his head, pretending to be a hat, and you're waiting to see whether he's going to do it again because you think that's going to be a good photo. You just can't do both things simultaneously. And so that forces us to think so deeply about the other people, other things, just not ourselves. And that force creates that lovely bit of separation that allows us to then be present in the moment and in our life. Because in all other forms of media, whether it's on your phone, on the TV, on the internet, whatever, it all seems pretty doom and gloom. And then you go outside and you have genuine interactions with people and everyone's sound. And you go, oh, well, it turns out that my genuine reality that I am now so focused on externally is fine. There's often such little wrong with it. And this leads me on to another point, that when you've got your camera in your hand, you have a reason to go out and take photos. And so let's say the weather is sunny. You have a reason to go out and enjoy it. And particularly in the UK, where it feels like we've had 3 years of just cloudy weather. You go outside and instantly your happiness is boosted by 3 out of 10 points. And you go, oh wow, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And we now have a reason to go out and just experience that. Whereas most other social events, you're kind of inside, right? And this kind of leads into creative expression. Like, whilst those emotions within me are feeling better when we're out in the sunshine, I'm personally not the most emotionally expressive person. But the satisfying feeling that you get when you've taken a photo that you're proud of, absolutely incredible. You feel so good deep down. Not only do you feel pride, but you feel happy that you're closing the taste gap, that your skills are developing, that you're seeing progression. And that is such a internally rewarding experience that often you don't really get when you're like, oh, I've done another presentation at work, and oh, I've gone to the pub again and eaten the same food. You don't get that sort of development that is so intrinsic to focusing on a skill, right? And there's no boss telling you, oh, if you do this, it's going to improve it, and oh, we need to squeeze out a 0.3% return for the shareholders because there's none of that shit. It's purely focused on you and your skill and your output and your enjoyment. And when you get into a rhythm, wow, that feeling of being in a flow state, of having fun and forgetting about everything else, that I think is one of the best feelings in the world. I love trying to cultivate that feeling of flow. It's just a magical thing, right? When there's nothing else going on inside your head other than the moment and your thoughts and your creativity, and you almost create that separation between yourself and what you're up to, which is, it's a weird thing to say, but you forget about you and it's just about this. And that I think is so powerful and so magical. And because of that separation, it almost gives you this confidence, right? Because street photography can be quite intimidating, because you are photographing potentially strangers, random people. It's a bit of a weird thing to do when you explain it to people that you're just going outside taking photos of strangers. It naturally is quite intimidating. And then when you're in this flow state and you start overcoming that, you start creating undeniable proof that you are able to overcome these hard things. You are seeing that development again, which feels so good, and I think translates across different forms of confidence within your own life. And the fact that you can do this literally anywhere for free once you're there is absolutely incredible. That is unlike, obviously you've got the upfront cost of buying a camera and whatever, but everyone now has a phone, and you can just do that anywhere. The difference between me and you is only our skills. The street, I can go anywhere you can go, and you can go anywhere that I can go. The only difference is my skills and your skills, and the skills of other photographers. That's the only thing that matters, which I love, because having the same opportunities is what we want, right? We want a world in which everyone gets equal opportunities, and street photography is exactly that. And where there's potential downsides in terms of street photography on your mental health, there's always going to be that social media comparison. When you have an algorithm that knows that you like street photography, it's going to show you the best street photographers in the world. When you see people like Billy D posting, it's hard not to go, oh, wish I could have taken that. Why can't I take photos as good as that? Because he is incredible. He is one of the best in the world. But we need to reframe it and make it an internal thing, right? He's been doing it for years. He's developed skills. He's worked hard and he's progressed. And that should serve as motivation for us to want to put in the extra time, the extra effort to try and start taking photos that are on that level. That's how we need to be reframing it. Because yes, we can get sad about it. That isn't going to help. Versus focusing on how we can start becoming the photographer that then allows us to take those photos. In particular, that hits different when you've gone out all day and you've taken no good photos. And that happens pretty regularly, if I'm being completely honest. But we've got to be out there taking shots on goal in order to score goals. And personally, I like going out on days when I think the weather's going to be good. So I get the upsides of being in the sunshine, as well as having an increased chance of having nice light in order to catch something that I think is beautiful and to therefore feel good to me. Obviously that's hard to do when you're living in the UK and we only get clouds. But I think that that's how we need to reframe it. It's just one of those things. And there'll be other days where every photo feels fantastic, and just gotta balance the two, right? Realistically, it is quite a lonely pursuit and endeavor. You have to go out by yourself a lot of the time because you won't be free at the same time. Other people will be free, and you just spend a lot of time on your own. And I think that whilst that can be seen as a downside, what are the upsides? The upsides are it's only you. It's only your skills. You don't have to be reliant on other people. If you want to go out and take photos, you can absolutely do that. You don't need if you're into, let's say, like rally racing or something, you need there to be a course laid out. You need to have a specific co-pilot, and their skills are going to be responsible for your output as a driver. That was a bit niche, but you know what I mean? We can just go out by ourselves and enjoy taking photos. And realistically, yeah, in the first couple of months when you're out shooting street, you probably will feel lonely, but soon you'll start noticing, every Saturday, this guy's out, and this guy's out, and this guy's out. All it takes is for you to go over and say hi. You've both got the same hobby. You can go, do you like Henri Cartier-Bresson? Everyone's got an opinion, right? And that, I think, it's quite easy to be social if you're out doing it regularly. If you're doing it intermittently, you're going to stay in this weird sort of purgatory of never really making any friends because you don't do it enough. So with all of that, I think that street photography is fantastic for our mental health. And I think that the more we do it, the more people we get involved, the more community we build, the better it's going to be for all of us. And so with that in mind, leave which city you're from, your Instagram handle, and let's try and make some connections, get some people talking, and yeah, making friends. So on that note, I shall see you in the streets. I need to get better at those exits.